I'll start recording. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for meeting me. I think this is like a really cool topic, and I think you're the perfect person to interview. I also like your sunglasses a lot.
Oh, they're the $7 ones from the drugstore.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So this is my this is my first interview, so I apologize if I'm a little dysfunctional. Um, but essentially, okay. So essentially, I for this class I have to create a podcast, and I wanted my topic to be something that is a little bit controversial, but also isn't really spoken about.
Yep.
So
We
I thought,
come to the right place.
yeah. So I thought, marijuana and sports might be a good choice. Um,
Right on.
okay. I like your background too. It's very fitting.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, I'm driving and got some nice fields behind me here.
Uh, all right. So I guess first off, I'll go through for my podcast viewers, quote unquote. I'll go through your achievements. So essentially, you won the Canadian Amateur Snowboarding Championship in 1991, the US Open, and the European Championships in 1994. And your most notable achievement, I would say, is the fact that you won the gold medal for the 1998 Olympic giant slalom for snowboarding.
Correct.
Very, very impressive rap sheet you have there.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good stretch in the pro snowboarding,
Yeah.
kind of from the beginning of the sport to seeing it all the way to the Olympics. So yeah, it was good times.
Yeah. So I guess my first question for you is, how did you start snowboarding? I feel like sometimes people usually start with skiing because it's a little easier, but snowboarding is a little different.
Yeah, well, when I started snowboarding, it was before snowboarding was even allowed in Canada, and so there wasn't really the option to snowboard on the and use the chairlift until 1988.
Oh wow.
In Canada. Yeah, and so I started snowboarding in 1987, and I had to go down to the United States, to Mount Baker, where they allowed snowboarding at that time, but like I said, not in Canada. So previous to that, I was a ski racer. Actually, I had been ski racing for 5 years already, and in 1987, when I started snowboarding, I was already 15 years old.
Oh wow.
So, and there wasn't an option in Canada to start snowboarding any younger than that, because of the fact that it was a brand new sport and ski resorts weren't allowing it until the following year. So it was unique that way, and for it to be allowed in 1988 and me be already sponsored by then, and then 10 years later go from that, like the first year it's allowed, all the way to the Olympics, and to ride that wave was pretty amazing. It was kind of like the 60s all over again.
Yeah. So how did you know that you wanted to, I guess, pursue a snowboarding career in the Olympics or anywhere else aside from skiing?
I think the allure of it was because it was more along the lines of skateboarding and surfing, which I was already a part of, and was a little bit more anti-conformist, and as a 15-year-old, we were skiing in 1987. It was nothing like it is today. In 1987, skiing was like golfing.
Yeah.
We wore weird clothes, and skis were skinny, and they didn't work in powder. And it was all these old school, sort of conservative mindsets, and snowboarding was, more along the lines of, skateboarding, and just, as a teenager, that's what's attractive. Now skiing and snowboarding, the cultures have cross-sected, and it's not like that anymore, but it used to be like that.
Okay. So how did you get into skiing then? Is it just because like the opportunity in Canada? There's probably a lot of beautiful places to ski there.
Yeah, like in British Columbia, skiing is just like hockey, to other parts of Canada. So if you grew up in BC, you're basically growing up skiing and doing stuff in the ocean and water sports, and so that's just part of the BC culture. And so I started ski racing when I was 10,
Oh
and
wow, okay.
was pretty good at it by the time I was 15 when I started snowboarding. And so you can see the correlation from my ski racing to winning the snowboard racing
Right.
10 years later in the Olympics. Not a lot of snowboarders at the time had a ski racing background. So it kind of gave me that edge. And, as a professional, you have to make choices based on trying to earn an income. And so for me, even though I did start off in freestyle because that was the beginnings of snowboarding, I chose to specialize in racing just instead of having to be in a judged event. I felt like I could win races a lot easier with my ski race background.
I'll let you. Are you at home? I'll let you go inside your house.
Cool. Yeah. Let's get in. I'll let the dog out of the car.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a Corso.
Oh.
Let's see if I can flip it. Come on, Bella.
Oh, so cute.
Come on.
I think you have a background on for Zoom.
A what?
Like a background on for Zoom. You know what I'm talking about? Like a green screen picture.
Do I have one?
Yeah, you do have one.
Well, I have a couple of things like this hanging around behind me. I don't know if you can see that or not.
A little bit.
But, it is I see what's going on.
Yeah, it's like a ramp or something.
That's actually an airbag.
Oh.
For landing off a big jump on.
Oh, wow.
Let's see if I can, that's hilarious. Has that been on the whole time? Because I've been driving.
Yeah.
Virtual background.
I thought it was on purpose. It looks cool though.
There we go. I'll give you my real background.
Oh, that looks amazing. Wow. Is the weather nice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's cherry out right now. So where were we? Is it too loud out here with the lake in the background?
No, actually, I think it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I guess my next question for you is, I guess at what point in we'll talk about obviously marijuana, the meat of this podcast. At what point did you start incorporating the use of marijuana with your training?
Well, I guess it would have been in around 91-ish, around 1991.
Okay.
So I was already, 21 years old by then, and I made it from the amateur snowboard tour onto the World Cup circuit by then, and that was basically my first year on the World Cup. And so by the time I was that age, like 20, 21, I had already been exposed to cannabis in Whistler, and how it's the people that introduced me to it were like high level athletes, and that they raced in, whether it was mountain bike racing or ultra endurance events, backcountry skiing and stuff. So by the time I was 20, I'd already been using cannabis for a number of years, and started using it more and more than I was drinking. So I was starting to cut more drinking out, and just I don't know, like going to bed earlier and waking up earlier in the morning, more or less, as an athlete. So it just seemed to fit my lifestyle better.
Mhm.
because what I needed to do, happens early in the morning.
Yeah.
As far as, being on the World Cup circuit, I mean, that's like a full-time job and
Yeah.
it's expensive. You're not there to waste anybody's time. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay. So I know that, I mean, it still has some stigma against it and around it. I mean, in the United States, it's still being legalized, like in different states and areas like that. But so would you say that, so would you advocate for the use of weed in training and in sports? Because I think it has a lot of health benefits that a lot of people aren't aware of. And I think a lot of people just think it's automatically a negative thing when honestly, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I definitely would. I mean, for me personally, um, it not only helped like on the physical side of things, like just, with recovery from working out and
Mhm.
having a way to sort of relax at the end of the day that wasn't drinking. um, 0 calories, right? Early to bed, early up in
Mhm.
the morning. Those are all things that an athlete needs um, on a regular basis, as far as like a lifestyle, so that
Mhm.
that's conducive to being an athlete and training on a regular basis, and not the other. And so, for those reasons, but also psychologically, it was great as
Mhm.
an athlete, just at a high level of competition.
Yeah.
Um, Having that other dimension, basically, to look at your technique in a different way and be critical of your riding, or of, if you're a skier or snowboarder, whatever sport you're in, it just gives you that other perspective on what you're doing and how it feels and how you're responding. And so, you know I appreciated how I was able to connect with my equipment, and how I was able to um, make that work with the connection I had to the snow,
Mhm.
and um, just on another level. So I think as an athlete, you are trying to find those tiny little things um, that make the difference at the end of the day. And in Nagano, I only won by 300ths of a second. So you are looking for what's called marginal gains. And are you there still?
Yeah, I think your
Yeah,
video.
there you
Yeah.
go. You're looking for these things, that what's called marginal gains, and so you find, like, thousandths of a second in 100 different places, or 1,000 different places, and the next thing you're winning, or
Mhm.
what. So that's, for me, looking at every possible angle to be healthy at the top of my game, but at the same time caring about my mental wellness, and um, making it work for me, so that I'm not going crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
Cannabis is really a big part of mental wellness, and being connected with yourself,
Mhm.
and your surroundings. And I think you could argue that alcoholism exactly doesn't operate the same way.
Yeah. Okay. So when I don't, you obviously can't speak for other people, but why do you think people would like critique it or brand it as a like performance enhancing drug? Or
Well, I think for one thing, we have an endocannabinoid system in our bodies that, when it's deficient, we don't operate at our optimal level. So it's performance enhancing, and that prohibition is over. And now we can, top up our cannabinoids, just like as if you're vitamin B12 deficient,
Mhm.
because of lack of sunshine in the winter, and you get that seasonal disorder. It's the same thing. And so pharmaceutical companies have been producing anti-anxiety pills and anti-depression pills, because that's what it leads to when your cannabinoid uh, levels are low.
Mhm.
So you do operate at a higher level, and your cells in your body, and this has been proven through science, you can look it up, actually can perform twice as many functions when those cannabinoids are topped up, as they do
Oh,
on their own. And so
wow.
that's how you become more immune to um,
your immune system is better, and it helps with, cancer treatment, and those are the reasons why, we're seeing the benefits of cannabis, because now science is allowed. There's funding now to, do this research on cannabis now that it's legalized, which is great. I think, what was the main question about the legalization or the
Yeah, how people would view it as like a performance enhancing drug.
right? So that, and why they would be against it. And I think that probably, the 80 years of prohibition has been, driven home pretty well to, the generations, and, it's been passed on, and it's a generational thing. And I think now the younger generation coming up is more aware of themselves and what makes sense for them, and alcohol is becoming, I think, less and less part of our culture, which is great. And not so much that people are going to cannabis, but at the same time, I think they are, as an outlet, and also as a way to get off of other more harmful substances.
I think your video is off again.
Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
No, you're good. Okay. So we talked a lot about research and everything like that. So do you think that your views from when you were in your 20s just starting versus now have changed, or like they're relatively the same? Because I know now there's more research, so I feel like we can have a better understanding of that and alter our perspectives. So would you say that your views have stayed like relatively the same over the years?
Yeah, everything that I thought before, I still stand behind today. I was coming from a perspective of experience with cannabis, by the time I had gotten to Nagano and that became a public story. And so it wasn't like I was guessing or I was making it up. I knew for a fact that it worked for me, and I'm not much different than the average person. So, it's just a matter of seeing, like, okay, maybe the whole world is wrong about cannabis and I'm right. And I just went with that, which most people would probably go with the other to try to, preserve whatever sort of reputation they think they have, or, but in my case, that I didn't really have the option. And so I would have rather been more private about, what I do in my spare time. But in my mind, I felt like good with it, that I was using a natural substance, and that it was working really well for me, just like any herb or tea or coffee or whatever other substance people use. I felt like it was something that was helping me on a daily basis, in a sustainable way, that I could sustain that lifestyle forever. Whereas, there's a lot of substances that people get used to, even, smoking tobacco, that isn't sustainable. And so I was really fortunate that I was able to kind of rise up during Prohibition and realize that for myself and for my own health. I'm going to be 50 in July.
Oh, wow.
And, people would never believe, like, okay, so I was in Nagano 23 years ago. How old do you think I was 23 years ago?
Yeah.
Like 4?
Okay.
So, I've been able to stay healthy over time, right? And that's the test of time. I've got 3 kids. They're all in school right now. I'm coaching snowboard camps, and, I'm leading, I've been married to my wife, Allie, for 10 years. But, my lifestyle is I live a healthy lifestyle, and I love it.
Yeah. So I guess you're not competing now really, but would you say that you're still incorporating the use of marijuana into your sports life? Because I know you talked about how you use it in your daily life for getting up and everything like that. So do you still use it when you're like out snowboarding or skiing or whatever?
Well, that's my favorite time to use it.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing like being outside and in the outdoors, appreciating nature, and to the fullest. And I think cannabis really allows you to uh, really appreciate like how beautiful the world is.
Mhm.
And, you know, being up on the top of a mountain, skiing, or in the forest, you know, that's a perfect place to appreciate cannabis, in my opinion, and really feel that energy as you're coming down the mountain. And it's not like drinking and where you're intoxicating yourself.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
you're not losing your balance. It doesn't cause you to, you know, become uh, you know, dysfunctional in many ways. So I mean, there is a certain amount of tolerance that, you know, people build up to it over time. And now that it's legalized, people, you know, are more educated about cannabis,
Mhm.
and not just smoking the whole joint just because it doesn't look very big. You know, when they compare it to, oh, I can drink 6 beers, I'm just going to smoke one joint. Yeah, well, that one joint's like drinking 30 beers. So
Mhm.
be careful.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about your time at the Winter Olympics. I know it was very chaotic to say the least. I've watched some interviews of yours and done some research about it. Do you think you can talk about your, experiences during that intense time in your life?
Yeah, it was an intense time for sure. Um, of course, you know, it was like the big peak winning, and then, you know, the big valley,
Yeah.
going through the whole ordeal of losing the medal, getting it taken away, ending up in uh, the police station in Japan in a cell, and then getting my medal back, and then getting out of jail. I mean, it was a big peak and valley. Um, the notoriety that came with it during Prohibition as well was
Mhm.
problematic. As much as it was fun and awesome, you know, it caused me to, you know, not be allowed into the United States, and caused me to lose different opportunities that were more of a corporate nature as an Olympic gold medalist, that you might imagine I might, you know, be looking at different opportunities that way, that, um, you know, came but never came to fruition, just because, you know, the association to a Schedule 1 substance.
Mhm.
And so, you know, I really sort of veered towards more and more over time towards, you know, making a mark on the cannabis industry, and to try to help, you know, bring legalization to fruition in Canada, you know, just by becoming an advocate and speaking out in favor of, you know, why Michael Phelps would use cannabis. I was the guy on NBC that was supporting Michael, and there was the guy, you know, anti-cannabis guy on the other panel. So, you know, I was the one guy that went out on the limb for, you know,
Yeah.
for cannabis. And, you know, it definitely, you know, has its good points, but at the same time, like you say, there's still that uh, stigma that comes with it.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like people would probably say that you're like the name, the name brand person to bring cannabis to light and all the benefits. So I think that's very, very cool.
I'm
So
happy to be and to do it, you know.
yeah, you're the perfect person. So you have your own company called Ross's Gold.
Yeah.
Uh, that's pretty exciting, actually. I think it's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pumped on it.
So would you say that, I guess, your time and your own experiences with cannabis have helped you grow your own brand in that way, like your own business?
It really has. Like I came from a perspective when we started Ross's Gold in 2013.
Mhm.
You know, I'd already been part of the cannabis space, I guess you could say, or out of the cannabis closet, you know, since 1998. So
Mhm.
I wasn't coming into it fresh,
Yeah.
and the stigma and the whole stereotype for me was, you know, a joke basically.
Mhm.
Like we use it to our advantage. Like, okay, cannabis is funny, we get it. Okay, we like that it's funny. Okay,
Yeah.
we think cannabis is awesome. It's awesome that it's funny.
Mhm.
and that's fine with me. And so it definitely was. There were moments of, if I should do this, or if I shouldn't, and there was some like anxiety, in the early days about what I was deciding to do. But at the end of the day, I just went with, what I felt was the right thing to do. And I'd been given a platform, in Nagano, and this cannabis flag that I was carrying, the torch, as you could say,
Yeah.
was given to me. And so I kind of felt like it was my responsibility in a way to, represent cannabis the best I could. And so coming into it now, where it's 2023 already, and brands are in the space right now are starting to become important. At first, when cannabis was legal, it was all about who is going public, who's on the stock market, what's the share price, and not so much about what brand it was or if anyone cared
Exactly.
in the first place. And at the time, I was creating a brand, my brand, Ross's Gold, and it had nothing to do with anything except for cannabis and the people who use cannabis.
Yeah.
We still to this day, I mean, I did come out with a line of glass, so we've had pipes and bongs and Ross Gold smoking gear, for a number of years. But literally just spent those years using the notoriety that I was given by the media that would just come to our booth at the trade shows and pump us up. And the love of the people that see me on social media, and then we're able to come to the trade shows and meet me in person. And that whole sort of ground word of mouth, really. We've never paid for any advertising, and we don't have any products right now for sale, but we are working on a number of products, actually. And we're before legalization, we had a store in Kelowna, and we had clothing line and everything. And then we shut everything down. We didn't get closed down, we just shut it down. And legalization came because we were following everything. And now it's 2.0, Ross Gold 2.0 in the new legal era. And we're 48 months into legalization. So I don't feel like we're behind at all, and by any stretch of the imagination. So in the next, we're looking at having products out this year. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, that's exciting. So
including plant food and grow stuff too. So that's kind of a cool part of what we're doing, is not only on the cannabis side having pre-rolls and premium flower and vape pens or cartridges and stuff like that, but also on the grow side having nutrients, grow lights, and everything that you need to grow your own and grow your 4 plants. Or even if you're a commercial grower and you have a micro grow, we can supply top-notch equipment, and even working on Ross Gold genetics, so that we'll have our very own strain that we can offer.
Oh, that's very cool. Wow.
Yeah. So lots of moving pieces, but it's all in the works, and definitely exciting. But it's taking its time.
So then my question is for you, what do you envision for your brand? You said you want people to, look towards different brands as more than just their name, or as just the fact that they're involved with cannabis. So it looks like you're looking to help people and to,
So we're projecting a healthy lifestyle, basically, with Ross Gold, and how cannabis can be part of a healthy lifestyle. I'm a dad, I coach snowboard camps. I'm a huge, road biker athlete still. And I'm, like I say, I'm going to be turning 50, and I'm in, great shape, for my age. And, I really get behind it from a health standpoint. There is a recreational cannabis user out there, but at the end of the day, you know, they're not getting in their cars, and there's no numbers to suggest that people are causing accidents by recreational cannabis use or anything like that. So at the end of the day, we all use different things as we grow up through our life and figure ourselves out, you know, by the time we're older, and hopefully a little bit anyway. And then, you know, so, you know, Ross Gold is just kind of projecting that image and sort of be connected to yourself, be connected to, you know, nature and the environment, you know, in a positive way. And like I say, we're into the whole growing side too. So caring about the plants and that whole connection again to nature and to the plant itself, because it is a plant and it grows like crazy, and it's so much fun to grow it and then to use it after you've had your hands on it as a plant and as a grower. The effects are that much more spiritual, I guess you could say.
Yeah. All right, this is my last question for you. So do you think, well, since cannabis is coming to the forefront a little bit, you know, in general, especially in the sports industry, what are your thoughts on the fact that it's still banned? It's still banned in the NCAA, the NBA, and the NFL, you know, any big thing that you can imagine. So do you think hopefully or eventually in the next coming years, those policies will be abolished? Or do you think that they're just going to stay around because, you know, it's still a performance enhancing drug?
Well, I guess the problem with what those sports organizations that you mentioned is that they're American for one thing, and cannabis is still illegal on a federal level.
Yeah.
And so these sports organizations rely on corporate money. And so corporately, like the banks won't even take cannabis money right now. So cannabis companies in America are buying banks to put their money into. And so there's different reasons, and they mostly come down to capitalism right now. But there is talk about the Biden government legalizing cannabis on a federal level. And there's like a lot of shuffling going on right now and positioning of major companies to be ready for that. And so once that happens, you're going to see a big shift, because I guarantee you that it's politicized also. Republican, Democrat, you know, like who's watching the NFL? Who watches NBA? Who are these people? And, you know, we don't need to get into it too much, but, you know, it is very politicized. And I think cannabis has the power to bring people together on both sides. And I think that the federal government in America just needs to legalize cannabis and let it open so that these, like the NBA can, because their athletes love cannabis, right? The NFL loves cannabis. They're tired of the opiates and the painkillers, and everybody loves cannabis. Everybody, even the corporate guys that don't let the players use cannabis love cannabis, but they just can't do it because of sponsorship and corporate stuff. So once that changes with the federal law, everything else is going to change too, and not just in America, but around the world, because there's so many trading partners with America that follow suit with America. And so I think we're dawning on a new era right now.
Yeah, I agree. I have one more question actually, because I'm interested about your business. How has COVID affected, I guess, production and everything? Because I feel like that's kind of taking a toll on everyone right now.
Luckily, it hasn't affected production because it's pretty COVID friendly. Working in a production facility, there's only usually like 2 or 3 growers working at a time, and quite a large area, like a 2,000 square foot area, you might only have 2 people working.
Oh wow.
And so makes it really easy, but also demand went up, and there was more action at the stores, and so that was an interesting, because no one's ever really been able to track it officially before.
Mhm.
So it was good for business, I guess you could say it. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, people wanted to, they were at home more, watching TV more, using more cannabis.
Mhm.
Instead of getting drunk in the day, right?
Yeah.
You can smoke weed, watch TV, and then still go out and be functional and go to the post office and do whatever you're supposed to do. But if you're at home watching TV, movies, playing video games, and drinking, probably you're just gonna wait till the next day or so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people would use more cannabis because they were at home more.
Mhm.
It's a good companion.
Yeah, honestly. All right, I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for meeting with me and
Okay,
letting me.
Sarah. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the interview.
All right, have a good day.